So I just got back into Destiny and nobody had the decency to tell me that there's a new adaptive auto rifle out there that looks like a Borderlands gun and it has more range than a summoner, more stability than a summoner, more aim assist than a summoner, and has better recoil than a summoner does. Like, I feel like y'all were trying to see how long it would take me to find out. Frankly, I find that a little hurtful. But this week, I finally got around to trying out the new dungeon, and I was awarded with a pretty good roll on this thing. It's a new dungeon auto rifle called the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant. And while it may certainly go down as one of the worst names in the history of Destiny weapons, the gun itself is very solid in PvP and has some killer combos for PvE as well. So without further delay, let's get into talking about the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant. The VSS Pyroelectric Propellant has a very impressive stat package that goes pound for pound with the summoner. The main difference is where those spikes are, right? So the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant is going to beat out the summoner in range by just a little, stability by a lot, aim assist by a little, and the base recoil pattern of the weapon is much more vertical and predictable than the summoner's, which needs correction in the perks with things like Arrowhead Break or Zen Moment, or Dynamic Sway Reduction, or like an Adept Counterbalance mod. So that's where the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant wins. But the summoner is going to come out on top in the categories of handling and reload speed. So you have to decide what's more important to you personally. Is it handling and reload speed? Or would you prefer your auto to have more range, stability, aim assist, and better recoil? For me, the answer is pretty clear and obvious. I want the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant. I'm going to get really tired of saying that name by the end of this video. With the base stability and recoil being so good, the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant has a lot of great options for perks, because you don't need things like Arrowhead Break. Like, you can actually take Hammer Forged or Small Bore for even more range and stability. But the perk pool on the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant is frankly superb. In the first column, we've got Strategist, which I think works very well on a Titan using the thrusters. You've got Eddy Current for big buffs to reload speed and handling when you've been sprinting. Then you've got Killing Wind, which is a top shelf pick here for an extra 50 mobility, 40 handling, 20 range, and a 5% buff to the damage fall off distance for 5 seconds after a kill. Like, this is an insane perk. It always has been, always will be. Then you've got Fragile Focus, which is a great pick as well. Increases range by 20 for free, as long as your shields are active. It's just free range. Then you've got the perk To the Pain, which I do not recommend. You have Attrition Orbs as well, which on this weapon is actually pretty good in PvE, especially in conjunction with some stuff in the second column. So all in all, first column here on the VSS Pyroelectric Propellant is dope. I recommend Killing Wind and Fragile Focus and Strategist in that order for PvP. The one I'm using does have Strategist, and I specifically like how well it synergizes with the Origin trait, which we'll get to in a minute. Moving on to the second column, we've got Onslaught, which is one of the main perks that people love on the Summoner, for 6s in particular. So just keep ramping up that rate of fire and beaming people. Super friggin' fun. Imagine how good it feels to get this perk going on the Summoner. And now imagine it, with more manageable recoil, deeper range, and more stability, and a stickier reticle. Yeah, that's what you've got here. Next up, we have Swashbuckler. Not a terrible pick, especially for Titans. There's Kill Clip, which is never bad. Good, predictable, 25% extra damage. Then it's Target Lock, which mine has, and you'll see that kick in from time to time, especially when dueling players just outside the damage drop-off distance or against roaming supers. Next up is Closing Time, a perk that I really like overall. That's a new perk. I don't think it's a top shelfer on this auto rifle compared to the damage perks in this column, but it's far from being a bad perk. It's always nice to get more range, more accuracy, and more handling while you're firing. And lastly, you've got the new perk Jolting Feedback, which is an exceptional choice for PvE for applying the Jolt debuff to targets, which is a great primer for extra interactions for arc abilities. Not to mention how well this synergizes with Attrition Orbs. All in all, here for PvP, I'm going to recommend Kill Clip and Onslaught above all else, but there's still a fair amount of good options here either way. Then we have the Bray Legacy Origin trait, which is pretty friggin' nice. It reads, damage with this weapon generates a small amount of ability energy for the one closest to a full charge. What I love about this is that it's damage, not kills. So as you're getting hits with the weapon, you're just constantly getting a steady stream of ability energy for better uptime on all of your abilities across the board. This works very well in conjunction with my Hazardous Propulsion build, where I'm getting rockets charged up and ability energy just for hitting shots with my primary. Then I'm cooling down my next rocket dodge even faster in the process. What's not to love there? So the origin trait here is top shelf in my opinion, just considerably better than wildcard is on the summoner in my opinion. Not that wildcard is bad by any means, but just in terms of how consistently useful it is, Bray Legacy is just going to do so much more for you constantly. Next, we need to at least mention how insanely freaking cool this weapon looks. I mean, we whine about reskinned weapons all the time, don't we? But then, they went all out with this weapon in terms of the design on this thing. It's almost too big when you're running around. It does look like a Borderlands weapon straight up, like an E-Tech Hyperion weapon or something. For me personally, like that does go a long way. I need something that's going to grab my eye and make me feel like I have something that's truly unique here. When we're 10 years into the game at this point, it takes a lot for me to be impressed by the way a weapon looks anymore. But this thing, it does it, and I'm here for it. You know, it's not too often that a dungeon weapon really impresses me, quite honestly, in the PvP sphere. I feel like ever since Grasp of Avarice, Bungie has just been really scared to put any remarkable PvP weapons in a dungeon. Like, we had bangers in Prophecy, but it was free, right? All players had access to it. We had bangers like the Matador, Thousand Yard Stare, and Eyes Luna in Grasp of Avarice. But since then, what have we really had that stands out in PvP? Like, maybe the occasional decent weapon, but it's mostly just PvE-oriented stuff. Nothing in Spire of the Watcher was all that great. Like, Liminal Vigil isn't terrible, but it gets demolished by other sidearms. Let's just be real. Ghost of the Deep ain't got jack for PvP. Like, who's out there using a no survivors in PvP or a freaking greasy luck? Like, nobody. Not in my lobbies, that's for dang sure. Warlord's Ruin has some PvE bangers like the Indebted Kindness, but again, there's nothing at all remarkable for PvP. So I feel like it's been a while. So I, for one, am happy that we actually got a legit PvP weapon for once in a dungeon. And I think that I'm going to play more of the dungeon just to get some better rolls. And I think that you should too. And I know that a lot of people think it's a slippery slope to put good PvP weapons in paid content. But like, we do that all the time. Like with DLCs, like there's just constantly really good PvP oriented weapons being introduced in other paid content. So why should a dungeon be any different? If they want more people playing their content and they want more people buying their paid content, they should probably put some decent friggin' loot in it for PvP enjoyers like myself. Like, I don't play Destiny just so that I can live in the Crucible. Like, I want the full package. I want to be able to go into PvE activities that I paid for that I enjoy and feel like there's a reason for me to be there so I can get loot that I can then take over to the other half of the game, the PvP side of things, and use those guns over there. It's not like there's any shortage of top shelf free-to-play weapons for people anyway. So, I mean, I know people think this is like a pay-to-win kind of thing. I don't see it that way. This is a looter. If they're going to make new content, it needs to have good loot in it in order for us to feel compelled to go play it, to go buy it, to go grind it, and then bring it into PvP and have fun with it. So with that, thanks so much for tuning into my channel and watching this video, you all. I'm happy to be back on the Destiny grind and checking out the seasonal content again. And I know it's episodes now, but it's still seasonal to me. Even Bungie devs still call it seasonal content, so we all know what it is. If you're interested in checking out any of my other content, I've got a whiskey channel that's dedicated to whiskey reviews, stories, and history. My wife is on there a bunch too, and we have a lot of fun with it. I also have a D&D channel that I just started recently, as I'm planning on uploading my new campaign that I'm about to start with my friends, where I'm the dungeon master, and the world, the characters, the encounters are all made by me. It's a full story that I designed from the ground up and have been working on for about 2 years now, so I'm super excited about that. Links to those channels will be in the description and the pinned comment, and you're welcome to drop a sub on those channels and find some more entertaining content there. Hey, be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.